Hello and welcome to Frontline Conversations. Today we have Parakala Prabhakar, the author of The Crooked Timber of New India Essays on a Republic in Crisis. So let's start with the title of the book, Essays on a Republic in Crisis. You have said that this crisis will not end with the electoral defeat of Modi and Shah. Why? And did we know that this was coming?
The crisis today, many people would feel, what crisis? Where is the crisis? We have democracy, we have parliament, we have the president, we have, all the state governments functioning. But let me tell you this. The days of democracies dying as a result of one fell swoop by army or a strongman or something, they're over. They're in the 60s and 70s. Today, it's a slow death. Even those institutions and people who are administering the institutions, even they will not be able to really size up that, institutions are dying or they are being restricted. The government or a particular ideology or a particular political party or a particular platform is taking over. It's so imperceptible. It's so slow, gradual. But then the effects are very real. So that is the crisis. Today, our secularism is in tatters. Our economy is in doldrums. Center-state relations are not anymore federal, especially if you look at the financial relations between the center and the state, the devolution of resources, the taxation, etc. Our social fabric is torn. In one word, we have moved very far away from the founding principles of our republic. What are the founding principles? Democracy, secularism, liberalism, pluralism, diversity. We do not seem to respect those principles anymore. Today, there are not just dogmatisms, but also open calls for genocide, economic boycott, lynching. You have seen what's happening today in Manipur and what happened the other day in Madhya Pradesh. Somebody urinating on a tribal, on a fellow citizen. And look at the economy. What's happening to the economy? We have added about 100 lakh crores of debt in the last 6 to 7 years. Our youth unemployment is at a very, very high level of 23%. We are in the company of, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Bangladesh also is less than half of our youth unemployment. There's hardly any skilling. There's hardly any training. So much so in India, the youth are not only unemployed, but they're also unemployable for a lot of trades.
You called this the new BJP. In fact, both Nalin and you describe the transformation of the BJP in different ways. Nalin talks about the Labharti scheme and whatnot, and you talk about the Hindu majoritarianism, which is the focus of the BJP now. What is the difference? I mean, is that the only thing? Is Hindu majoritarianism or Hindu Khatre mein hai? Is that the only thing that the BJP is focused on? Is that where the votes will come from?
Labharti, is essentially this, that I will give you 3 cylinders. I will give you 5 kilos of wheat or 5 kilos of rice. In the name of that, while doing this on the one hand, keeping, little people a bit happy here and there, and showing that the government is concerned about the poor and all that. But under the cover of this Labhat, what the government is doing, they're giving 3 cylinders to a Labhat, 3 airports to their friend, 5 ports to a friend. Now, you have about 84% of our population had seen a steep decline in their real incomes, in their purchasing power on the one hand. And on the other, we have about, a rise, an increase in the number of billionaires from 125 to 145 today. Now, the regime can tell you, look, are you not proud of, having 145 billionaires in our country? Second richest man, third richest man, and all that kind of a thing. But what I see, to me, what is more striking is not 145 billionaires, but 84% of the people whose incomes have shrunk. We have added a huge number of poor people to the poorer, below the poverty line groups. This is what, the political discourse we talked about. While you and I look at this and try to make the government accountable for its economic performance, for its concern for citizens, etc., the government, the present dispensation, is not worried about this discourse at all, because it is not going to the public on the basis of their performance in economy or creating employment or increasing the private investment in the economy. It's still falling from about 30%, before 2014. Now it is around 18-19%. A steep fall. And then there is a huge increase in the indirect taxes and a steep decline in the direct taxes. Indirect taxes affect the common person, but the government is staggeringly incompetent in the economy. It had presided over a large number of deaths during the pandemic. Thousands and thousands of people walked from Kanyakumari to Uttar Pradesh, Punjab to Bihar. We've all just seen that. And hundreds of bodies have floated, dead bodies have floated in the holy Ganga. But still, their political power has not been adversely impacted. What does it mean? It means, it is pitching. They tell you about something about the, fastest growing economy and all that. But actually, they are not pitching that to the public. They are pitching to the public, I am building a mandir. I have abolished Article 370. I've taught them a lesson. I will teach them a lesson. These are the narratives that are being whispered into each person's ear through their social media, through their narrow casting of their messages, etc.
Obviously, when we talk about the new BJP and we talk about a Republican crisis, you cannot leave out the person at the center of it, the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. You talk about the phrase Pradhan Sevak and the disappearance of that phrase. So from Pradhan Sevak to Vishwaguru in 9 years, what did this change entail?
What we see today has been introduced on the slide. Because if you go back to 2014, the main plank of the Modi-Shah BJP was not this. It was Vikas, anti-corruption, creating employment, 1 crore jobs per annum, and bringing black money back, putting 15 lakh rupees in everybody's pocket, every honest taxpayer's pocket, and all that kind of thing. I remember very well, during the campaign, the then Prime Ministerial candidate went on saying in many of his campaign speeches that the fight is not between Hindus and Muslims. The fight is between Hindus and Muslims on the one side, corruption and unemployment on the other. So the fight is Hindus and Muslims together fighting unemployment and corruption. That was the pitch. But that's why I say, the present agenda that we see today being implemented, it is brought in on the sly. It is smuggled in, actually, into the political discourse. Today, you don't hear the term secularism anymore in our public discourse from the ruling dispensation. And you talked about Pradhan Sevak. Look at, the Prime Minister's early speeches in 2014, 2015 and 16. After 16, the discourse has completely changed. He used to talk about Team India, he used to talk about Pradhan Sevak, and he used to acknowledge the contributions of all the Prime Ministers thus far, Prime Ministers, and he used to talk about Team India as Prime Minister and all the Chief Ministers. Today, Team India is just the Prime Minister and, they morph for 140 crore people. So, it has changed. It has changed. I have a feeling that all this was according to a very clearly thought out plan, that they come in with this kind of a discourse, make themselves acceptable, gain power, gain control, and then unveil what exactly was their political agenda.
When we talk of the current scenario, are we kind of forgiving or underestimating the toxicity and the liberal facade under Vajpayee? Have we understood enough of what happened during that time? Are we overestimating the current toxicity?
It's a very very complex kind of situation that we are addressing. What I thought and what I wrote in this book is that somewhere the political platforms and the political parties and even many civil society organizations, which are wedded to the fundamental values of a republic, somehow did not size up the kind of threat that was building up. I'll tell you one very dramatic kind of a transformation that has happened in our political discourse. Not very long ago, about say 15 years ago, everybody, including BJP, used to say we are secular. We are also secular. But we are genuinely secular, not like other parties which are pseudo-secular. We don't appease anybody. We are sarva dharma samabhav, but, everybody will have to be treated equally. That's what they say. But the center of political discourse at that time remained secularism. Today, that's not. Today, every political party and every political leader is trying to tell us, I'm also Hindu, but not like them. I'm a Januyadari, but I'm not like them. We don't use religion for political purposes, but I also do puja, I also do path, I also do, fasting and all that kind of thing. So, instead of saying that we are secular, from there, the discourse has traveled to forcing everybody to gain a certificate, they're also Hindus in order to, participate in the political discourse. That is the major transformation that has happened. It has not happened because of one political leader or two political leaders or three political leaders. It has happened as a result of a decades-long, arduous work that was put in by, the San Parvar, its volunteers, who are highly motivated, prepared to put in hard work, what I call grunt work, for decades and decades, without seeking any reward immediately, any power, any position, and completely away from the limelight. On the other hand, the secular platforms have become so complacent. They thought, they thought now the Indian polity has now settled down for slightly right of the center and slightly left of the center. The fight is between these two kind of streams of thought, which they somehow it was a wrong sizing up of the situation, but it has come about.
Across 3 chapters, you talk about the problems in the universities. You call one set of universities bonsai universities, which I would term as boutique universities. Then you have problems with what is happening with the university system itself today, and then your first love, or JNU. So where do you see this entire thing heading? Look, we are very concerned about what is happening in the primary education, what is happening in the school system in itself. Does higher education have any resonance with the population and the masses? And is it really important? If it is so, why is BJP trying to enter this space? Look at what is happening with the Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Mumbai and the other institutions where autonomy once was taken for granted and now it seemed to be completely vanishing.
I don't think it doesn't resonate with the masses. Each of these issues resonate with one particular section of if the gas prices go up, one section is affected much more than the other sections. If universities are affected, one section is concerned more than the other sections. If Mysore is on fire, some sections are more concerned about it, more anxious about it than the other. Each has a constituency. Higher education also has a constituency. Now, higher education, this regime is very particular because that is where a constructive critique of what is happening in our polity and society comes from. Now, once to defund them, neutralize them, take full control, change the research agenda. Today, even periodic table is removed. Periodic table is not religious or it's not cultural. Models are removed from the Indian history. So many other things are happening. You have seen what kind of a past worshipping nation we have become during pandemic. There are very responsible leaders from the present dispensation who went on saying that if you chant Hanuman Chalisa, you'll be cured. You don't have to take any vaccination. You bang the plates and things like that, or you light up a lamp, or you smear your body with cow dung. You drink cow urine. That kind of a past worshipping, very retrograde kind of a discourse is being introduced, removing even periodic tables and distorting the history, what children have done. This is happening at the lower level as well as at the higher level. Now, taking control of universities, scientific establishments. Now, you have now a society. We have come to a place where the High Court judge refers a case to get whether this particular person to establish his claim, whether it is right or wrong, to an astrologer. And you have one of the IITs bringing out Panchangam. That is the kind of situation we are slowly slipping into, and because it's a slow slippage, not dramatic, as I said, not at one fell swoop. Therefore, most people do not realize what kind of a crisis we are already in and what kind of a crisis we are getting into.
Brings me to the question of COVID, the management of COVID itself. This is one of the greatest challenges faced by the government the past 9 years. So was it administrative incompetence that led to the manner in which COVID was being handled, or was it the lack of political will at the highest levels? What was the real problem during the COVID time itself that we have got so many contradictory orders, so many problems during that time, and so many deaths, 600,000 by one count, which a lot of other people, independent organizations, put it up at around 5 million.
It's not a question of either or. They're all. It's lack of vision. It's incompetence. It's not being able to really size up the kind of threat COVID-19 was posing. Is it? If you look at the large chapter in my book, which I titled it as Pandemic Long Book. We had Trump in Ahmedabad when the pandemic was already raging. So, which means we did not even size up that the pandemic COVID-19 is already raging. It is infecting people. The government refused to believe, to even look at it. Then after that, the government doesn't give any money to the indigenous vaccine developers. It doesn't negotiate with the foreign firms. The long delays there. And then, it doesn't even book in advance those vaccines which are made for different other countries. They were the ones who were funding one or two Serum Institute and other people to do research and to produce, whereas the government of India wasn't. And quickly after that, it gets into action. The negotiations with some of the leading international firms break down for very small reasons. Which all that goes to show that the government is not even aware. They don't know what is the gap in between supply and demand of oxygen, beds. When we had a long shutdown, what is the shutdown used for? Actually, that kind of a lockdown anywhere is generally intended so that people don't come out, the spread doesn't happen. Meanwhile, you beef up your hospitals and health infrastructure, oxygen cylinders, and all the other infrastructure. But we have imposed a very tough lockdown, but that gap we have not taken beef up the infrastructure. We have not done that. So what is it for? Economically we've lost. We have taken a huge drubbing. That quarter we had a minus 27% growth. Minus. That's the kind of situation we had. And on top of something, which was already slowing down, which has not yet recovered the 2016 demonetization. On top of it, the pandemic comes, minus 21 growth rate. I mean, we have shrunk by 27%. And even the informal sector, the rural economy has still not recovered. This government has perfected the art of making normal look like abnormal, abnormal look like normal. I'll illustrate this. The normal thing is for the government to give vaccination, and it's not new. Then they've given polio vaccination. They've given many vaccinations free of cost. Now we have a differential pricing during this dispensation, and completely inexplicable. You can't even make sense why that kind of a differential pricing, and why such a high pricing of one brand over the other. All that is very irrational. And giving vaccination is shown as something which is very abnormal. It's not. They've been giving vaccination. This is a normal thing. But you see, they celebrate it by showing that it is a very abnormal thing. Now, every year, the G20 leadership passes from one country to the other. Now, this is our turn. Maybe, in a few months, it goes to somebody else. But now, this is not normal. This dispensation wants us to believe it's abnormal, that the international community has recognized, especially, and, has, conferred this honor on the mother of democracy. It's not. In spite of you being mother of democracy or not, it would have come to you, it would go away next year. So a normal thing is made to look like abnormal. Now, an abnormal thing is normalized. Genocide is normalized. Riots are normalized. Lynching is normalized. Large number of people walking hundreds of miles is normalized.
Lastly, where is hope? Is it with the regional parties? You speak a lot about Congress. Is it Congress plus the regional parties, which they call India these days? Or does it rest with the people of India, the people who have to finally realize what is going on and then come together and make sure that this government does not last?
Well, I call this a Faustian bargain. Not just the political parties, but individuals, institutions, even civil society organizations. Many of them have struck Faustian bargain, but there is hope, because there is hope. The reason why I say this is, although this looks like a huge juggernaut, very strong, it is strong, but what is the vote base of this? It's just about 38%. And it is confined to a few pockets of the geography of India. I think this kind of a dispensation is defeatable, but nothing is inevitable. Defeat is not inevitable. Its victory is also not inevitable. I do not believe in history being anything being inevitable in history. I believe in agency. That, civil society organizations, the political platforms, they need to work for it. They need to understand the size of the challenge and work for it. There is hope, definitely. But I want to caution people against getting into complacency after winning an election. Even if this dispensation were to go out of power in 2024, the threat will not go away, because it has penetrated so deep that it might take at least a decade or a couple of decades, maybe a decade and a half, to completely excise the kind of poison that has gone into the body politic of India, of hate, of the othering. Because somehow this dispensation has to some extent succeeded in convincing a large number of people that, your problem is because of their presence. You're unemployed because of them. There is a poverty because of them, because of their children, because of the number of children. All that. These are all very, very false narrative. It doesn't stand to scrutiny of hard facts, but they're able to, spin it and send it to the civil society. So these things will have to be fought. Even if there is a change of regime in 2024, I do not see that a possibility where all the political platforms and the civil society organizations can heave a sigh of relief and say that, the threat has gone. It's not that.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. For more such videos, subscribe to Frontline.